Hey, this is Natalie Grant, and you're listening to Dispatch Radio.
All right, folks, I have a great guest with me on the line right now. I have Todd Burpo, the author of Heaven is For Real, and as you know, we've been talking about the film that's coming out in Easter. Heaven is For Real is a film done by Sony Pictures. I had a great chance to screen it the other night, a great chance to talk to Todd about the film and the backstory and the book and all that. Todd, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing well, and thank you for inviting us to your show, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Well, I want to get right to the film, get your thoughts on the film and how you thought it was adapted, and maybe some positive and negatives.
Sure.
So what did you think of the actual final product?
Well, I think, the first time that I watched it, it was really difficult to watch because I've never seen a movie, especially about something so personal before. But after the second and third time where I got to kind of sit back and just kind of enjoy it, especially watching it with audiences. I've been involved with audiences that didn't know I was in the room till the end, and seeing them get into the film, I'm very grateful for it. It's amazing how this film connects with people on so many levels. It's a real family. They handle our struggles accurately and honestly. I think they're honest about faith, too. We had a lot of questions, and they don't try to hide that. They don't hide the hard stuff, and they don't hide the good stuff. And that whole struggle throughout the movie, they really portray it accurately. And to be honest, I was impressed at how the audiences I've seen engaged with this story throughout it. I'm very grateful for the finished product.
Let me ask a question about that, because you're touching on something I think some folks, when they see the film, may ask. And so there's a lot of aspects to the film that are not in the book, and I want to ask you to clarify. So, for instance,
Sure.
Some of your struggles, the board of the church, the scene with your daughter, some of these things, are they actual backstory that didn't make the final product of the book, or they were actually creative liberty that was added by the filmmakers?
Well, some of both. I think you have... some are actual backstory and real conflict that we have in life. If you get online, you'll see people that they attack us for sharing what Colton has shared with us. And there's people that praise us saying, thank you for doing this. We needed this. And so they're honestly depicting a lot of that that variation in response to Colton's, experience. But I think the other thing, too, they create some scenes. I'm a wrestling coach. Cassie, when she was 9 years old, up to that point, she wrestled. She had a couple instances where she wrestled some kids down and put them in a chokehold, but she didn't punch them. So they didn't put, shall we say, take it very far by any means. But there's a couple things in there that they do a little bit of Hollywood. But by and large, the whole story is true to most everything. And some of the things they do in there, they're really kind of having a compilation of characters because they just have a shorter amount of time to tell the whole story in an hour and 40 minutes than you do sitting down reading a book.
Absolutely. And when you sat down with the director, Randall Wallace, how did he present taking your book and making it a visual? What was his approach to bringing that adaptation to life?
Well, one of the things that Randall did very well, of course, you can't, there's so many things that we touch on in the book that Colton shared with us. He had to pick some of the themes and develop those themes through characters. And his character development and the characters he created for the movie, he does a great job of telling the themes that he wanted to tell. But I think one of the big themes the two things that Randall said he wanted to do that I really appreciate what he did is, first of all, he believes that faith is not just an experience or decision of your intellect. Faith is something that you make a decision of faith based on your heart, your soul, your emotions, your whole being. And he brings that whole kaleidoscope of faith, that all those elements to this movie. He really does an incredible and just very convincing, and not only convincing but honest manner. This is a good movie. And that's Randall Wallace's brilliance, to be honest. I think another thing, too, that we kind of disagreed on, but he won me over, and at the end of the day, I think he's right. He told more of my backstory than probably I wanted to, my breaking my leg, things like that. But he's like, you're just a real guy, and that's something that this world needs to understand about pastors, that it doesn't. And that's one of the messages that was really important to him, but he told it that way. And I think, I think people in this world need to realize that pastors are not different from anyone else. We're people, we're dads that have to pay the bills, we're parents that raise our kids. We're not really that much different. We're a lot more the same than probably people think we are. And I think that the movie tells that very accurately.
We're talking to Todd Burpo about Heaven is for Real, the film that comes out at Easter time, adapted from Todd's book. And I think you're absolutely right that the scenes of your character, struggling with his wife, being intimate with his wife, not having finances to pay the bills. These were the things that, when you're part of a church, you're running a church, maybe you're on the board. If you're not a pastor, you kind of know this is what happens, but it seems like the real world ignores that. And I think I have to give a lot of credit to obviously Russell, but Greg Kinnear just transformed into this amazing personification of you. I mean, you had to almost be mesmerized by this.
Well, I was actually kind of creeped out by it because he did such a good job. It's like, you're kind of like, where are all the cameras around me? My friends, when they've seen this movie, they laugh at me and say, he even walks like you do. When I broke that leg, I got kind of a gimp in my stride, and he's got that down pat perfect too. It's amazing. He did such an impressive job. All my friends are laughing, going, wow, he nailed you. And I'm kind of sitting here feeling kind of creeped out, going, how did he do that? So, yeah, I kind of waver back and forth, but there's no doubt that Greg Kinnear did incredible. He really did.
You touched on faith, and I think, it's such a powerful theme that you really hit home with the book. And, I always go back to what you're saying, it's not about what you know, but it's that you know. There's a transition that you make as a Christian of, well, even when I can't explain it, I know it. So how does the film kind of take your book and elevate and communicate that on a different level? Because I think it really does.
Well, I think you get to a point where a child is the perfect solution to childlike faith. When you see how a child processes things differently to an adult, and then you keep asking this kid questions, and throughout the movie, Connor does an incredible job of portraying Colton. God knew he had to bring a kid who was just like Colton to this film, and he did. I mean, when you see Connor, that's who Colton was. It's incredible the job that Connor did. And yet at that same time, this kid answers your questions. He tells you deep answers to things a kid can't know. He leads discussions that a kid can't lead unless he saw what he saw. And gradually you look at this kid, he goes, well, why don't people believe me? I know it's true. And eventually he just wins you over. And that's what Colton did to us in real life, and I believe Connor's going to depict that accurately in the film.
I have to ask, because my kids will kill me if I don't. First off, let me explain. There's an extreme resemblance and personality between my older son Jacob and both the real life Colton and the depicted Connor on screen. Do you sing? Yeah. Do you actually sing "We Will Rock You"? Because if you do, it's too close to home.
Well, I'm a wrestling coach, and you can probably imagine We Are the Champions and Queen and We Will Rock You gets played as the wrestlers enter into the wrestling room. So, yes, guilty as charged. We do.
We do, too. Brother, I tell you what, that was, the look on my son's face when he sees this movie and the scene of the boy singing that out loud will bring tears to his eyes because that was my children at that age. That's fantastic. So. Oh, yeah.
I've had people say, you're a pastor and you sing that. Well, I'm a guy. I'm a wrestling coach and fireman. Yeah, I do. So there you go.
It's not a derogatory or profane song by any stretch of imagination. So.
No, I tell you, it's one of those things that's a part of our life.
Now that you've got the movie out there as well, you'll get some reviews coming in, you'll get some feedback and that kind of thing. Are you surprised by the response so far, or is it been mostly positive, mostly negative? What's people saying about the film?
Well, I think, I'll probably get a lot more personal feedback after more and more people see the film, but Sony does an impressive job in screenings of getting feedback from audiences, as they get the film ready to go out there in theaters everywhere. And from everything I've heard, feedback from people who have read the book, they love the movie. People who haven't even read the book love the movie. And this is people of faith and people not of faith. This is a movie that invites everyone to sit down and look at a real-life experience and ask this question, man, what would I do if this happened to me? And the movie's done very well. It's very powerful. I think even Sony, I think, is very grateful and really impressed at how audiences of all backgrounds are coming to this film and going, wow, this is a good film.
I want to ask one more personal part of this. Was the one part of the film that I didn't, maybe I miss a little bit in the book with this, but it seems like the on-screen Todd Burpo by Kinnear seems like he's struggling with this literal interpretation of heaven. Is that pretty much what you were going through? Like, man, how can this, I mean, he's so specific with visuals. He's so specific with details, as Colton would have been explaining these things to you. And in the book, we get more of that. We seem like, in the book, it seems like you're really almost like excited, like, tell me more. I think we lost a little bit of that in the movie. Were both parts happening simultaneously? Like, one was step one, and then the book really kind of really gets into steps, 15 through 25?
Sure. Well, when you read the book, you're going to find so much more that Colton shared with us, just because you don't have the limitation of the time that a movie has to deal with. So I think anyone that discovers the movie, they're going to read the book next and go, wow, there's more there. There's a lot more there. But I think one of the things that the movie gets exactly right is I knew what I believed about heaven. I just didn't know what I believed about near-death experiences. And I had never had anyone in my life. I'd had people say at deathbeds right before they die they can see some things. But I had never in my life encountered someone that says, well, I've been to heaven, and here's my son saying that. So my struggle was not so much maybe with what he was saying, but what he said he experienced. Near-death experiences for me was something I'd always stayed away from, and no one had prepared me. Okay, in your life, guess what? Your son's going to almost die. He's going to go to heaven, and this is how you have a conversation with him about it. I was completely unprepared for that, and that struggle was very real.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that was portrayed extremely well. Kinnear, of course, again, kudos to him for just an amazing
He did
role.
A great job.
Any great sets, memories, or any good experiences that we can share and squeeze in here as we wrap up?
Well, I think, especially in talking with Randall Wallace, and one of the things that he portrays in the film, and as far as him as not only, screenwriter that's done other good movies, and I think audiences are going to be thrilled with this one too. There's a scene in there where my character says to another character, you never have to apologize to me for any broken piece that you carry. And I think that's a wonderful message this film is going to communicate to people. I think sometimes people think with faith they have to have everything all figured out, and they're not hurting anywhere, and they don't have some things in life that are still issues that they carry, and that's not faith at all. And I think this movie is going to show what God thinks about faith. He does not give up on strugglers. And I think sometimes strugglers want to give up on God too soon before God gives them that moment of healing, or they work through that issue. And Randall brings that other issue of faith. And faith is when I still believe in God, even though he didn't do what I prayed for, or something turned out different. And that's a huge message that's honestly portrayed in this movie. And Randall's brilliance, he portrayed that great.
The film is Heaven is for Real. It's adapted from the book by the same name. We've been speaking with Todd Burpo, and I tell you what, I love the film. I can't wait to know when I can get my review out there and kind of spread the word from that angle too. And we've been covering the movie for a long time, and it's really good stuff. I really enjoy talking to you as well. So thank you again, my friend, for fitting us in, and take care. God bless.
Well, you have a great day, Brandon.
All right, thank you, Todd.